Mile High Insiders with Nick Kendell and Luke Patterson. Head on over to milehighhuddle.com for all things Broncos. Now, it's time to find out what's going on behind the walls of UC Health Training Center.
All right, we are giving it a second here, waiting for our producer to give us the okay sign or the thumbs up or the, flash us, whatever he's going to do in the background to keep it going. Are we good? Is that a thumbs up? Is that okay? Thank you very much, John. Hello, and welcome to the Mile High Insiders podcast. I am Nick Kendell along with Luke Patterson. Luke, how are you doing on this fine Saturday evening?
I'm pumped, Nick. I can't wait to get to tomorrow. It feels like 60 years since the Broncos have last played football. I know I was off last weekend. You guys had a killer show. Watched it right before this one. So I'm pumped to wrap football, man, because it seems like it's back. It's definitely happening. So I'm ready. I'm excited. I'm nervous. And I'm pumped to have a great show.
Until the game kicks off, I'm going to be waiting with bated breath because it seems like every single left turn that this could make so far to get to this point, it has. And I know that it's definitely there's positives for it when it comes to the Broncos, obviously guys getting healthy, but it's really weird after having all this time off and having a game now. And also the Patriots, of course, a little bit of moaning, a little bit of crying coming in and getting now because they didn't play, getting Cam Newton back and Stephon Gilmore. But so right now, as of right now, we're supposed to have a game tomorrow. I know the Broncos are already flying out to New England. So I think it's happening. I think we're going to have a game tomorrow, and God bless it. There's not much better than football Sunday.
Yeah, man, I'm pumped. I'm super pumped. We're finally here. I'm surprised, just like you, that it's happening. But from everybody I'm talking to, everything we're reading, right, nothing saying that there were any contingency plans. So that being said, we've got a huge show lined up tonight. I know we talked about a few topics and involved into some more stuff because there's been a lot of news before this game has even started. Some related to some of those players that will not be playing for obvious reasons, and we'll get into that. And other news that's happening on the Denver side as well. So really pumped to get this show going. Want to be sure to let you guys know that tonight's live stream podcast is being brought to you by sportsbetting.com. Broncos country, gambling is now legal in the state of Colorado, and here's what makes sportsbetting.com a no-brainer for sports fans. Sharp odds and low juice. They have in-house bookmakers. They're not a third-party provider of odds. Reduced juice, best prices. There's hassle-free bonuses, a one-time rollover, meaning the bonus money is yours after you bet it one time. Other sites typically range from 5 to 30 times. There's 24/7 live customer support, always a real person to speak with. But here's the kicker. At sportsbetting.com, you can get a 100% risk-free week of sports betting up to $500. Not just one, but all of your bets. Play for a week, and if your losses exceed your winnings at the end of the week, sportsbetting.com will cover 100% of the difference, up to $500 with a one-time rollover. So that being said, guys, go on over to sportsbetting.com/Mile High Huddle. That's sportsbetting.com/Mile High Huddle and capitalize on a risk-free week of sports betting up to $500. And speaking of sports betting, Nick, did you see the Vegas line change between this game? I mean, at first, without Cam Newton, I believe, what was it, a +2?
I think so.
Yeah, and now it's a +9 with Stephon Gilmore and Cam Newton. So get on over to Sports Betting, check that out, and definitely thanking our sponsor there.
This is the Overtime Podcast Network.
Guys, everybody wants to find a way to make a difference and make an impact in the world. A lot of times people get too caught up with our lives. Things are happening. We got jobs, we got families, we got school, we got things going on. We don't always have the means to get around to doing that. But here's what's cool about Coors Seltzer. You can actually make a difference by just enjoying a great, great drink. And here's how it works. Coors Seltzer is launching the world's easiest volunteer program. By simply cracking open a can of Coors Seltzer, you're volunteering. Because our waterways, let's face it, they're at risk. 80% of America's rivers are drying up. Through a partnership, though, with Change the Course, Coors Seltzer is helping to protect and restore America's rivers. Here's how that works. Each 12-pack of Coors Seltzer restores 500 gallons of fresh water to U.S. rivers and the communities that depend on them. The way it shakes out, 1 billion gallons of water get restored to 16 river basins across the U.S., and that's just year one. Here's what's great, though, about Coors Seltzer itself. Not only are you making a difference in the world simply by purchasing Coors Seltzer, but you also get to enjoy naturally flavored black cherry, mango, lemon lime, and grapefruit. I particularly like the black cherry, and the specs are in. Coors Seltzer is 4.5% ABV, and it's only 90 calories.
As someone who covers the NFL and a giant football fan, there's nothing I like more than kicking back on a Sunday morning, getting my spread, getting my food, getting my drinks, putting on a full slate of NFL action, and kicking back with a Coors Seltzer. Whether it's a black cherry, a mango, lemon lime, Chad, I live for football and kicking back with my Coors Seltzer each and every single game week.
Amen. So join the world's easiest volunteer program, gang, by simply drinking Coors Seltzer. You can volunteer to restore America's rivers. You buy Coors Seltzer, you help restore 500 gallons of water into America's rivers. Guys, it's that simple. Who would have guessed saving the world could be that easy? Visit CoorsSeltzer.com to find Coors Seltzer near you. That's CoorsSeltzer.com.
For every 12-pack sold through 8/31/2021, Coors will purchase services from Change the Course to restore 500 gallons of fresh river water. Details at CoorsSeltzer.com. Celebrate responsibly. Coors Brewing Company, Fort Worth, Texas.
Yeah, I mean, that's, again, if the theme of this show isn't running backs don't matter, it's that nothing matters until you have quarterback. So that's Cam Newton. The Broncos had probably a chance to get him. It looks like that shoulder injury is finally healthy. He's looked really good in a few of those games. So, I mean, it's going to be fun to see Cam Newton out there. Obviously, he's a talented player. I would like to see the Broncos defense, make him look a little frustrated. Don't want any of that Superman dancing going on out there, but it'll be a good game. And it's always just fun to hate the Patriots. I mean, outside of the AFC West, there's no team I enjoy hating more than the gosh darn Patriots. Maybe it'll be the Seahawks after living out in Seattle for a little bit, but right now, it doesn't come close. Screw the Patriots.
Mr. Unlimited. You got Mr. Unlimited out there with Russell Wilson, dude. And I can't stand him either, but I love watching the guy play.
Oh, so
watched the game last week. Yeah. So, definitely want to give some shout outs to some folks that we've got on the live stream. Appreciate you guys rocking with us here on Saturday night. Steve Baumgartner in the house. What's up, guys? What's up, Steven? Jeff Hepner. First time live, usually at work listening after the fact, and I'm pretty excited. Jeff, we are excited that you are joining with us.
And Jeff, I really like your picture. It looked like it was of Peyton Manning, right? Is that
the GOAT? The GOAT?
That's my GOAT. I don't know what anybody else. I don't care what anybody else says. That's Peyton Manning to me.
Jeff, thanks for stopping by on a Saturday night. And of course, we got Peter Middleton saying hello to everybody. Peter, thank you for joining the Mile High Insiders. Yeah. John on the ones and twos, of course. David Crespin coming in. What's up, guys? And go Broncos. I completely agree with you, David. Go Broncos. It's here. They should be touching down in New England if they're not already there. I'm sure they're tucking into their beds, right? And doing
hopefully
all
not the last touchdown this weekend for Denver and the Boston area.
Oh, shots fired
I'm
early
really
on in the show. Early on in the show, we got James Campbell coming in. What's up, James? Kevin Peterson. Not forgetting you, buddy. I'm always looking out for Terry Randall. Good evening, Broncos country. Good evening, Terry. Appreciate you so much. Nick, we got a ton of stuff to get to. I think we should go over some of the news today first, right? News over the past couple of days. Obviously, not to beat a dead horse, so to speak, but Melvin Gordon busted this week for DUI, practiced a couple days, didn't practice a couple of days, and now it turns out that he has reportedly strep throat and will not be traveling with the Denver Broncos. Talk to me about that. Talk to me a little bit about how you're feeling about the Melvin Gordon situation in general and what the Broncos will look like without Melvin Gordon against the New England Patriots.
Well, I guess the first thing I'd like to say is, Melvin, you're making me look bad because, again, like I said, if there's anybody who's on the mountain of running backs don't matter, don't pay running backs, I've been here. I've been planting that flag for Mile High Huddle for a bit. And I've been starting to say nice things about Melvin Gordon while Lindsey was out. I thought he was playing pretty well, especially with the struggles of the interior offensive line, not getting much push. And Gordon was making the most out of it despite the inconsistent blocking. I guess that's what we'll call it. But then he goes out there and gets a DUI. So, I mean, I don't know. I don't really have much patience for something like that, especially when you have all the resources to you. And I understand people make mistakes. You're especially in that situation, maybe feeling a little bit invincible one drink turns to two, I can drive home. But it's very unfortunate, and it's also unfortunate to come around to don't pay running backs outside of their ability on the field. So it's a bummer. I don't think that the talk of a bunch of people, saying get rid of him because of the DUI. I mean, I'd have to talk to the guy and see about remorse and know more about his history, because everybody's allowed a few screw ups here and there. I think. I mean, people make mistakes, but it's a bummer, and it hurts the Broncos. I mean, I think we're going to see more. Obviously, Royce Freeman this week. Maybe he's going to be a sleeper that you could come off in daily fantasy. And obviously, Philip Lindsay back. I know that was close to 100%, almost went in that Jets game. Should be good to go now, but it's going to be interesting to see how they split the carries and just see how much they lean on Lindsay, because I mean, how much the Broncos offensive line is struggling, and Drew Lock, playing. Well, I mean, that's what I think he's going to play. So, you don't want to just totally rely on the pass game and put him in a situation where, don't want to land on that shoulder again.
Yeah, and we had Diamond, John, if you could put that back up. We had Diamond chiming in with a quick comment to agree with you. How much money is Gordon making? $15 million? What a waste. Should have paid Lindsay. Now, Nick, I couldn't agree more with everything you said. People do make mistakes. Do we agree with what he did? Absolutely not. Nobody does. It sounds like Melvin Gordon is very remorseful, based off some reports that I've read and some interviews I've listened to and things like that. So that's a good thing. It doesn't seem like he's going to be fighting it. It's one of those things where, for me, Melvin Gordon had his best game, obviously, against the Jets, the worst team in football. But take it for what it was. It was a career-high game as a Bronco for Melvin Gordon. But I just have not been super impressed with Melvin Gordon, especially with the salary. So to your point, you should not be paying these running backs what you're paying them when you had one on the cheap, and you probably could have signed him a lot less than you did Melvin Gordon. So Melvin Gordon not being in the game this week doesn't worry me one bit, because like you said, Philip Lindsay, we will get into that, but I completely agree with Broncos country. I see why you guys are frustrated. I think the Broncos are definitely disappointed. Melvin Gordon disappointed, and we're going to have to see how this thing rolls out. One thing that I do want to address is I see the comparison between Kareem Jackson, and I understand why people are doing it. It was very odd, Kareem Jackson's stuff last year, right? I found it very odd. I'd never seen that circumstance where a DUI charge was not revealed until the end of the season when they wanted to scrub those last few games. However, it does sound like they're taking things on a case-by-case scenario. The collective bargaining agreement wasn't completed for the new year, in which this collective bargaining agreement is definitely a lot more strict when it comes to DUIs. The players signed this agreement that lessened the marijuana stuff and definitely cracked down on the DUI stuff. So definitely expect a 3-game suspension, but it's not the same thing. I don't think the Broncos are going to be cutting Gordon. And as Bill Belichick would say, we're on to New England this week.
Yeah, and I just want to, again, we don't want to spend way too much time on it, but I do think it's kind of funny that when a lot of people were talking about not paying running backs, and there was that big heaping of running backs that got paid, 2-3 years ago, and Todd Gurley, David Johnson, Le'Veon Bell, Devonta Freeman, where are they now?
Le'Veon Bell. Thank you for bringing up Le'Veon Bell.
I'm just saying, running back.
I think we had David coming in here. David, I love the swag. Look at that with the mask and the hat. Chad would be pumped. We are pumped to see you getting that swag. David Kilgore coming in with a huge super chat. Thank you so much. Do you guys think that Bell will make the Chiefs better and more dangerous? Nick, what do you think?
I mean, I think that's a pretty easy yes. It's more about how much so. Clyde Edwards-Helaire is playing good football right now. They still have Damian Williams. So you just add another weapon to the arsenal. Now, is he going to be a full-on difference maker for that team? I mean, no. You ask anyone, and it's Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce are the two guys, and they play off each other brilliantly. Honestly, it's kind of what the Raiders are doing right now with Henry Ruggs and Darren Waller as well. But that's beside the point. We can kind of come back to that for Raiders week. But right now, I mean, it just adds another weapon. So does it make them better and more dangerous? Yes. And it's very frustrating. It's one of those deals that when the Broncos were competing for the Super Bowl with Peyton Manning, you could see them being on something like that, because a player that was cast aside wants a chance to compete and get a ring because they're already getting their money. Unfortunately, that's not where the Broncos are right now, and that's where the Chiefs are. So you're going to see them get those kind of sweetheart veteran deals. But it does make them better and make them more dangerous. It's just how much so. I mean, he's still a running back. He's still one that's struggled the past few seasons, and they already have a decent stable of running backs in a pass-first offense. So the amount it'll make a difference remains to be seen.
This is the Overtime Podcast Network.
It's a signing that they could afford and a very, very good question. The last thing I would say with regards to the Melvin Gordon stuff is, I think that question was really good because you compare other teams to those in your own division. Right now, people are looking at Justin Herbert saying, whoa, maybe this kid from Oregon is just – he's lighting the world on fire throughout his first few games. I mean, he went toe-to-toe with the Chiefs and almost took them down, looking pretty good against the Saints, Nick. And so some of those comparisons are starting to shift the Broncos' way to the quarterback position. Now, we talked about Philip Lindsay coming back. That's going to be a great thing. I hope Philip Lindsay can provide a spark that this offense needs, but it's going to be a collective effort, just like you talked about with that offensive line. Phil can't do it on his own. Drew Lock entering the starting lineup this week. Broncos country obviously very excited. That's obviously a newsworthy note too. Now, they played silly little games, to quote Vic Fangio, right, from last year, just like they delayed announcing Drew Lock the day before the game. And it doesn't quite make sense to me. Maybe it's a Bill Belichick, Vic Fangio, old man move. But we all know it's going to be Drew Lock. Drew Lock knows it's going to be Drew Lock. Bill Belichick knows it's going to be Drew Lock, just like the Broncos know it's going to be Cam. What do you make of Drew Lock's return? Are you ready for it? And how big of an impact do you think it's going to make against the Patriots?
Well, I think it makes a big impact against the Patriots, and I think that they're tipping their hand with Drew Lock's health, moving on from the boat, Blake Bortles, and keeping Jeff Driscoll, which probably is not the direction I would have gone. Honestly, I know Bortles is a meme, but Jeff Driscoll is just awful. But I think that Drew Lock, obviously, it's going to make the offense more potent. It makes the Broncos 100 times more enjoyable to watch because when you don't have a quarterback that's competent back there, it just makes it sometimes just a little – what's the word I'm looking for here? Maybe monotonous, but it's just not fun to watch when the quarterback's struggling so much. So now that you got a quarterback that has competent abilities and tools in Drew Lock, at least it's going to be more fun to watch and give the Broncos a chance. So biggest thing is him staying healthy, him showing a little better accuracy than we saw in that Titans game, and him protecting himself. Offensive line is struggling. We're not gonna lie about that. I mean, who would have thought 2020, man, it's just a roller coaster of a year. The whole rest of the offensive line falls apart, and Garrett Bowles is looking like a gosh darn Pro Bowler. But I think that biggest thing, Drew Lock, protect yourself, protect the football. And if you can keep it close, anything can happen. But Bill Belichick an extra week to prepare. There's a reason it's a 9-point spread right now.
Man. And that's why I love talking football with you, Nick. And that's why I'm glad everybody's joining us here on the Mile High Insiders tonight on Saturday night. We're right before kickoff tomorrow. So we're super pumped to have you guys. And you said it, Drew Lock gives you the best chance to win. However, I'm hoping to see some improvements from Drew Lock, just like we saw last year when he got hurt. It seemed like he really worked hard throughout that stint of his injury from that thumb and trying to feel better. I'm hoping it's the same thing with the shoulder. I want to see some better coverage reads from Drew Lock. I want to see him stay in the pocket a little bit. I know he's great. I know he's an awesome athletic quarterback that can get out of the pocket, but that's where all his injuries happen. Drew Lock is something that was really, really interesting that Chad Brown said, former Seattle Seahawk and Pittsburgh Steeler, New England Patriot, and CU Buff, very beloved guy here in the city of Denver. It was very interesting on air this week. He had brought up the notion of should the Denver Broncos teach Drew Lock how to fall? And before everybody laughs at me and giggles, and Nick, I know you already are, it sounds ridiculous, right? Teaching a grown man how to fall. I think there could be something to it. He pointed out specifically that, Jim Zorn had been notorious for teaching Matt Hasselbeck and Trent Dilfer out there with slip and slides in training camp. And I know those guys weren't the most mobile of quarterbacks. I like to think Drew Lock's a little bit athletic than those guys were. But do you think there's something to Drew Lock not only staying in the pocket, and obviously the footwork has to improve? I don't know if it's ever going to improve because he seems to love to throw off that back foot. Sometimes he can get away with it. But what do you expect to see out of Drew Lock's mechanics, and how does Drew Lock protect himself from a Bill Belichick team that's going to give him a lot of stunts and a lot of different looks in the blitz packages?
Yeah, it's unfortunate. This all comes back to Melvin Gordon being out of the game again. I mean, that's something where you can slow down a pass rush and protect your quarterback if you're running the ball effectively, making sure that those edge rushers and those interior rushers have to play more gap discipline rather than, pinning their ears back, shooting a gap. But still, quick pass game, get the ball out quick, get it to your playmakers. You still got guys who can do things in space. Obviously, it's going to suck to not have Noah Fant in this game, but them's the break sometimes. So lean in on the running backs, quick pass game, and hopefully for more accuracy. And, you're talking about Drew Lock protecting himself, that Titans game as well. Just it's that everything comes from the base and that lower body mechanics when they're not consistent. You see the accuracy wane, especially the further the ball gets from where the throw is made. So you're seeing those deep passes just not close sometimes. And that's obviously frustrating and something we need to see him work on. But really run the offense, protect yourself, keep the game close. Don't make that costly mistake. I'm not asking for him to reinvent the wheel. He doesn't need to go out there and play like Patrick Mahomes or Russell Wilson or anybody, but just go out there, execute the offense, and it could be a game. That's the best we can hope for. A 9-point swing. I think the Broncos will cover. I really do. I think this is a much more talented team than people think right now. I mean, the Titans are playing incredible football. The Steelers and the Bucks are both really good teams, and they should have blown out the Jets. I mean, they really should have. And that was with Brett Rippon out there, who was, bless his soul, thrown out there with that wet noodle arm. But, it's going to be again, comes back on the quarterback, and it's almost unfortunate for Drew Lock because this year could be the year that judges what the direction the Broncos go at quarterback. But again, them's the breaks. That's how football plays sometimes. You got to make the most of your opportunity when you have it.
That's how it goes, and it seems like that's how it's gone the last, it feels like, 2 weeks, 17 days, how long it's been since the Broncos have played the Jets. So adapt and overcome is something the Broncos and the Patriots are trying to do. Pabby coming in with a 1999 super chat. Hello, Pabby. I hope you are doing well. I hope your family is doing well. Also, always in our thoughts and prayers. Excited for Broncos football. It feels like it's been forever. Go Broncos. Thank you, Pabby. Go Broncos as well. We completely agree with you guys. We had a feeling there was going to be some excitement tonight because kickoff is right around the corner for the Denver Broncos. So, yeah, we can't be more excited. Just a couple more housekeeping issues as it relates to news. Nick, you brought it up. Blake Bortles released, meaning that Sylvester Williams got pulled up. How much playing time do you think you're going to get from the old former first-round draft pick from the Denver Broncos who was just signed and just promoted from the practice squad?
He might be active, but I would be very surprised if we saw much of him at all. I know that the Broncos not playing kind of gave them the old middle finger in regards to DeMarcus Walker and Draymond Jones. They would have been active this week, but because of it's a games, not a weeks, an actual weeks placed on, and the NFL put that bye week on them. We're not getting those guys back till next week. So they might see Sly Williams, but I think it's going to be very limited. And if you do see him playing a number of snaps, something went wrong, and hopefully not, because gosh, I just can't mentally deal with another injury. I can't imagine that locker room having to deal with another injury.
Don't push him because Nick is close to the edge, as we all are, ready for Broncos football. And I want to open it up to you guys as well as we continue to just get through some of the news of the day. But the Patriots are currently placing running back Sony Michel and guard Shaq Mason, in addition to defensive end Derek Rivers, on the reserve 19 list per Tom Pelissero. That's what we're going to start calling it from now. I've tried to call it this funny little thing that everybody's getting tested for, and it just makes me sound silly. We're going to call it the 19 list. So on the 19 list, those are some Patriots that we aren't going to see. Speaking of that, Nick, we also got a report today that Broncos running back coach Curtis Mawkins tested positive for 19, and the Broncos will be leaving him behind. So those are the current situations as it relates to health before the game is played tomorrow. How big an emphasis on health is this game before it even starts? You said at the beginning of the show, you're holding your breath and hoping that it's going to start, and dang it, that's why I love you, man, because I'm the same way. I'm trying to prepare myself for bad things, so if they happen, I don't feel as bad, but sometimes I feel even worse. How are you feeling about the game as it relates to health for these players and for the game?
Man, that is a loaded question, and it asks me to put on my Miss Cleo hat and kind of predict the future. But I think we're going to have a game. I do think that's going to come to pass, but I do also think that there are frays at the seams of the overall 2020 NFL season. I mean, again, we don't want to go down too far down this rabbit hole because this is a football podcast, not a epidemiological podcast.
But you're telling truth because we're seeing adjusted schedules, Nick. I mean, we would be foolish to not at least bring it up in the excerpt of, the Broncos got their bye week taken away. I didn't get to talk about it. You guys did last week. So I'm still going to complain a little bit, but you know what? It's professional football. Let's big boy up. It's time to play. Broncos country's ready to play. So that was definitely a loaded question, but I'm happy to hear you say you think the game is going to happen, and we'll get to our predictions later, but definitely just wanted to come in and say I completely agree with you, man. I'm so pumped this game's going to happen.
Yeah, and it's not so much if this game is going to happen, it is the ripple effect from games beyond and the league beyond. So, I mean, with cases going up across the country, people going inside, there's more community spread. Again, I don't want to go too far down this rabbit hole. I am, I guess, educated in the field to talk about it, but that's not why we're here. But I think that it's something where, again, you're starting to see a little bit of phrase on the seams, and it makes me nervous for the overall season as a whole. But that being said, living in the moment, being really excited there's going to be a game tomorrow, taking it in, win-loss. Drew Lock being back makes the offense so much more enjoyable to watch. So I'm excited for football. And again, 2020, I've said it 100 times on here and just to anybody who listens, every single time we make a prediction, we come back looking extra dumb. I can't even predict beyond the next hour. So talking what's going to happen next week and with something as unpredictable as football, as well as the state of the world right now, I mean, draw a fortune cookie, that's just as accurate. So we'll see what happens, but we'll take it one day at a time.
Yeah, I hear you. And Greg Smith trying to take it one day at a time, saying, hey, man, I'm just trying not to lose my head right now. Man, Broncos country, I'm with you. I'm part of you guys. Nick's part of you guys. We're everywhere. As Mile High Huddle likes to say, it's not a geographic location. It is a state of being. And speaking of state of being, we saw some guys with some excellent swag. Ladies have some excellent swag. I saw a new release by the queen of the MHH superstars, Miss Christie. So definitely want to go ahead and plug. Get your swag on. Go on over to huddleuppod.com and get some sweet. I need to see y'all start repping this MHI gear because I'm starting to get a little jealous of Christie's new shirt, and I want to make sure that you guys see my new shirt because it's dope. Nick's going to be getting it, and the hat's looking fly. So go ahead and support all of our guys and gals in the MHH community. So, Nick, I kind of want to open it up to some of our comments right now. And John, I think if that's okay with you, because I see Broncos country's excited. I've been talking about it for the last 25 minutes. I want to hear some of your takes. How do you guys think this Broncos game is going to go against the New England Patriots? Because it went from backup against backup, third string against third string to starters against starters. And now you're looking at matchups like Jerry Jeudy and Stephon Gilmore. Is he going to travel? He doesn't typically travel with Jerry Jeudy. You've got a lot of interesting matchups in this game.
This is the Overtime Podcast Network.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think, again, we talked about a lot of this last week, but for me, it really comes back to the offensive line. And thank you very much, J-Boss. Pretty awesome name as well.
Thanks,
and we got B Great 7 coming in as Albert O plane. Luke, I know you got to be excited. Noah Fant is out, but
no, don't say it like that. You're wedge driving. No,
also,
I'm
Jake,
not.
You should call me out. I get a bitter look in my face. I think it's just me looking beyond the horizon, like trying to see where this conversation is going to go.
But I appreciate it. Nick trying to digest whatever I just said because it was probably foolishness.
Too much
Albert O, that's what it is. Yeah, if Albert O went to Iowa, he would be the best thing ever. Man, I don't know. I don't know what to think of Alberto right now. I'm not feeling confident about it based off of some of the things Coach said, and maybe we can get to some of those quotes here in just a little bit, but it's been the same thing, Nick. Nothing has changed. They are waiting, and Pat Shurmur specifically spoke about it a couple days ago, might have even been yesterday, where he's saying, look, the practice field is where you show coaches what you can do. Now, to me, that's a direct message to this young kid saying, we don't quite trust you yet because we're not seeing it on the practice field. Does it mean you need to be perfect in practice? No. But to me, that's kind of a lassie bark, right? One of those things saying playbook, understand what we're doing, understand how you need to adjust, things like that. That's not an insult at his intelligence or anything like that. That's simply saying to have rookie players come in and be starters and have immediate success it's just a hard thing to do, Nick. It's a really hard thing to do, and we're seeing it right now with several Broncos, including Jerry Jeudy and Lloyd Cushenberry.
Yeah, I mean, the rookies, that's something about the NFL draft that I appreciate everyone getting more and more enthralled with following the NFL draft. I mean, that's honestly what brought me to Mile High Huddle, is I was writing about the draft freelance, and Chad said, hey, coming over here, you sound like you know what you're talking about. I had him and everyone fooled. But I think that there's a lag time and a patience required for draft classes. I mean, it's, 4 years since Bulls was drafted, and we're just now finally seeing him culminate to be what we hoped he would be. So there's this instant gratification that people want from draft classes that it just doesn't exist, especially in the NFL with, I mean, how these guys' bodies change, how accurate and precise you have to be in the scheme. So Alberto not playing this year, I don't think it's an indictment on him. Jerry Jeudy, if he struggles this year, I don't think it's an indictment. KJ Hamler, blah, blah, blah. When you have a guy like Michael Ojemudia come out and play extremely well, that's a huge boon. But you should never expect on somebody like that. And Kenneth, we see that.
We'll get to you, Kenneth.
Yeah, Kenneth, we're going to have to let Chad know about that. He's he's the boss man, so he will push anything like that onto him. But Alberto, definitely, I think you're 100% right of it being somewhat of a dog whistle when they talk about him, everything coming back to, I'm not really sure how much of the playbook he grasps right now. And when he's blocking, especially if they're holding him back and blocking, if he misses an assignment, that could be end of season for your quarterback. So,
and I can't believe I'm going to say this. I miss Virgil Green. Yeah, I missed Virgil Green because he could block. Now, was I terrified anytime he went out on a little flat route or something like that? Yeah, definitely terrified. Do not want to see him doing it. Julius Thomas was there for a reason, but you're exactly right, man. The coaches, you got to earn their trust, and it starts in the playbook. And not having Noah Fant, I'm a little surprised because I was really not thinking that he would play at the beginning of the week, and then it sounded like things were going better. And maybe that was just the optics of time. Drew Lock had time, Philip Lindsay had time to get 100%. Bradley Chubb, he needed time after that Jets game. The guy looked exhausted, and he's over there saying, I'm back, and I hope he is back. But a lot of good matchups that we have to get after. And Peter, I got to say what's up. Thanks, brother. I really appreciate it. The diet is looking like it's working, mate. It's trying to, man. It really is. Trying to be a little bit better about eating right and cardio and trying to be healthy in this time of, health so important, and wash your hands and take care of each other. So how do we take care of each other? We take care of ourselves. How do I take care of myself? It's being here with you guys and Nick and John on Saturday night. So I appreciate all of the support, and I want to get to Jay coming in here. Real talk, Nick. Real talk from Jay Boss. I'm scared of our whole team getting sick and playing from this game. Happy to see Lindsey taking off, though. I hope Gordon feels foolish. Run, Lindsey, run. I hope Locke performs well. 250 plus and 2 touchdowns. Wow. That's a lot to get through, Jay. I love it. It's bold. 200. I want to get to Drew Lock specifically on that. Drew Lock, 250 yards and 2 touchdowns against Bill Belichick's defense. Stephon Gilmore. Nick, yay or nay?
I think it totally depends on how the defense plays. If the defense is struggling against Cam Newton and the Broncos have to open it up and be a little bit less ball control-y, it's a word, look it up, then you will see Drew Lock throw for 250 and 2 touchdowns. But if it's a slow-paced game, more of a grinded-out game, especially with how long the teams have been off with a weird couple weeks now, then I'd probably less. So that's a really good line, honestly. I'll go over just because I'm going to be optimistic here. And I'm hoping for some big plays here. I'm hoping Jerry Jeudy and your boy Tim Patrick out here making some plays.
Yeah.
So I'm going to just, for the hell of it, I'm going to be positive. I'm going to say over on both of those.
I like it. I like the optimism from Broncos country. I'm not sure I'm there. Not sure I'm there. And it's not because of Drew. It's because of some other things that Drew has to adapt to. We talk about him protecting himself. Well, you know what? The offensive line needs to protect him as well. Now, I thought Trevor Siemian was tough until I saw Brett Rippon. And doesn't feel like it was the one sack they got against Brett Rippon, or no sacks, and not many official quarterback hits, but they were driving homeboy into the dirt, and Brett Rippon was definitely welcomed into the NFL. I want to see how Drew Lock's going to do against not only this Patriots defense, but communicating with his offensive line pre-snap when he's in the huddle a little bit, talking with Lloyd Cushenberry. And you got to lean on Graham Glasgow. You really do. I know the guy hasn't been playing the best. I would say he's fair. I'm not going to dog him, and I'm not going to go through the moon about him. But look, Dalton Reisner is somebody I'm trying to figure out right now. And I'm reaching out to some people and I'm asking, and I can't get anything on it. It's just, for whatever reason, he's, getting beat. Now, that's not saying I want to get rid of Dalton Reisner, because I do think he's going to be a perennial player for this team. He's proven that he can do that. And he is not a rookie fluke. But you look at Garrett Bowles, who's having success. You look at Lloyd Cushenberry, who's a struggling rookie. I think a margin of error is happening right now, and we're seeing that in Dalton Reisner. So for me, I think that's ultimately going to hinder Drew Lock's success a little bit. I would say 250 yards is definitely on spot for where I think he's going to be, but I'm looking at probably one touchdown and one interception for a fair, welcome back, rusty game from Drew Lock.
Yeah, and again, some of this, I know we talk about how much it is the quarterback, but some of it is, again, outside factors. And again, I really like Mike's comment here about it being a low-scoring game, running the ball 30 times.
Yeah, leave that up, Jay.
I mean, that's a Bill Belichick game right now. And even with Cam Newton, they're going to have a little bit more explosiveness in that pass game and the run game, honestly, with McDaniels kind of using that Tebow playbook. But we will see what happens. Obviously, I mean, maybe the Broncos fall behind really and just have to let it rip. And then, just let it fall as it might. The game flow is going to matter a lot. And you said something that, talking about the offensive line, I am worried about Drew Lock going against Bill Belichick, but I think the most worried about Lloyd Cushenberry and constant A-gap blitzes and delayed blitzes and twist and stunts using the A-gap, because Cushenberry is struggling big time. And I mean, you've seen every team they've gone against really push those A-gaps with delayed blitzers and whatnot, and it's been something the Broncos haven't had an answer for. So Bill Belichick obviously has seen that on tape. Come on, Rook. I know I literally just said you can't be too impatient with rookies, but Cushenberry right now, I feel like that's where all the issues are starting with the offensive line, because there's issues with communication, both verbal and nonverbal, from the center position, and it matriculates outwards.
You're exactly right. And that's to be expected, right, with a rookie. I'm going to go ahead and eat a little bit of crow, because I was saying, why aren't we starting Lloyd Cushenberry right away in training camp and getting him those reps and stuff like that? Not that I thought he would come in and just be this boss of a center, but I thought he'd be competent. And I think he is a competent center, but you can't give him good grades. He's learning on the job. I hate to say it, no offseason, no OTAs, blah, 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 blah. We get it. But this is a performance-based business. You saw Dalton Reisner have a amazing rookie campaign. I wanted that for Lloyd Cushenberry, and we're a quarter of the way through. We'll see if things can get better. I hope they can with Mike Munchak. But when you look at that offensive line, to me, it comes down to all of your experience on the right side. Say what you want about DeMar Dotson. He's got experience. Say what you want about Graham Glasgow. You and I like the Graham Glasgow signing. I think his ankle's still bothering him, and that's just kind of what it is. I don't think it's an injury that people aren't disclosing or the Broncos are trying to get over on anybody. I just think it's nagging the big fella. And then you look at the left side of the line where Garrett Bowles is doing well, but Reisner's having his issues, and I expect Bill Belichick to go at him as well. So I would definitely agree with both of you guys. Drew Lock's success is very dependent on the offensive line this week against Bill.
Yeah, Bill Belichick, I mean, always getting it done. He's one of the best to ever coach for a reason. And I
hate it.
I'm really glad that we get to see Drew Lock instead of Brett Rippon, because a non-mobile quarterback with that arm talent, even though, bless his heart, Brett Rippon is a good pre-snap quarterback with the checks and the reads, I just think that Bill Belichick would make him throw exactly what he wants, and we might see a couple more pick sixes this week. But not happening. We're going to have Drew Lock out there. Hopefully no pick sixes. We got Naj Altaf coming in. Hello, brothers. Seems like every analyst has picked the Pats by double digits. Do you think the players pay attention to outside chatter, and how confident do you think they are going into this game? Okay, so multiple questions here. I do think that the players pay somewhat attention to the chatter, maybe some more than others, and definitely some more than they should, in my opinion, just because, not everybody who has a platform, just besides us, we know what we're talking about, but not everybody who has a platform, really knows what they're talking about. Sometimes, you watch like Stephen A. Smith and Skip Bayless, sometimes they're just literally talking to create division and to create controversy. So can't listen to everybody. How confident do you think they are going into this game? I think they are definitely, there's some confidence. I think that they probably lost a little bit given the uncertainty of the last, I guess, everything that's transpired from the Jets game to this game. But getting another guy out there, getting Drew Lock back, I think that goes a long way in believing you have a chance. And, sometimes belief is half the battle.
Yeah, I agree. And Naj, thank you so much. I definitely appreciate that question. And John, if you could throw that up just one more time for me. Thank you. I want to make sure I answer both questions. Do I think the players' attention to the outside chatter? I know they pay attention to the outside chatter. Just like Nick said, not all of them, some more so than others. Some, claim to be completely ignorant of all of it. And I believe it. As in they don't even know what happens. It's kind of like Andrew Luck, who had the flip phone, right? And right before he retires, it's like, what year are we in? And you have the flip phone, and some players could really give a rip. But how confident do I think they are? Man, that's a tough question. I don't know about confidence for either team right now. I think both teams are probably extremely anxious for all of the obvious reasons. It's been so long since both teams have played football, and there's been so much drama and lead up to this game. All we can do as Broncos fans is try to hope that the game delivers the drama that's been built up to it, right? I mean, how bad would it suck? And it's a possibility. I hope it doesn't happen, but there's all this drama for the last 2 weeks about this game getting played and stuff like that. And it was just kind of a meh, that sucked. On to the next week. I hope there's some drama in this game for the good varieties, but Drew Lock's back. Philip Lindsay's back. Those guys are – Philip Lindsay's an emotional leader. Dalton Reisner, he is a leader. I wouldn't quite call him an emotional leader. So I'm hoping that Jerry Jeudy gets a little bit more confident, considering that the quarterback who they're building this team around is back.
Yeah, I mean, that's – again, it all starts with the quarterback. If you have a quarterback out there that's worth their snot, then you have a chance in any game. So – that's what the rest of the season is going to be. And obviously, if the Broncos win this game, they're right back in the playoff hunt. But the biggest thing for this team is figuring out what Drew Lock's going to be. And here we go again. I mean, we missed a couple games there, but we're going to see what he's made of. And, you don't want to totally pin all your hopes and dreams on what he does this season. You need to be a good enough football mind and analyst to understand, to be able to pick apart the process versus the results, even if the Broncos are losing. And so it's not always pretty. Got to be able to understand the tools and the progress that Lock is showing and what that means for the future. So big game. I'm just really excited to see Drew Lock back out there because, gosh, I the Trevor Siemian years were rough enough. I thought Trevor Siemian was definitely more competent than probably almost any quarterback the Broncos have had until Drew Lock. But that said, you could tell that he was not going to get you very far unless you had like an all-time roster around you. You would literally need just stacked on top of it and to be a Super Bowl contender. And that's just not how you can win in the NFL unless you get extremely lucky. So we'll see with Drew Lock. And if he plays healthy, anything can happen. Just got to stay healthy. And I see we are Charlie coming in with the Trevor Lawrence talk today. We will cross that bridge if we get there, Charlie. But right now I'm pretending that Trevor Lawrence doesn't even exist because it's I don't think it's super duper possible, but you never know.
Terry Randall coming in with the super chat. Use the force, Luke. I appreciate it. I'm trying to use the force to make sure that this game happens tomorrow. We feel like it's going to, but when kickoff happens, I think we'll all feel a lot better about things because the game will be happening. Yeah, man, it's one of those things where there's just so much anticipation for this game. We'll have to see where things go, but with regards to the Trevor Lawrence thing, I'm just going to go ahead and say it. Those of you guys calling Drew Lock a bust out there right now, I don't see it. I think that's kind of a lazy take, not because I have a differing opinion, but because we don't have a large enough sample size. That's something that was continually talked about Paxton Lynch, right? Well, why aren't they playing him? We need to get games under his belt. Well, Drew Lock doesn't have enough games under his belt. And then hearing the thing, well, he's always hurt. Well, they're minor injuries. You're right. I'm not going to make excuses for the injuries, but they're not 2 ACL tears on a 24-year-old like Bradley Chubb right now, who are definitely serious injuries that you need to monitor. Now, defensive end and quarterback are completely different positions, Nick. You're exactly right. Everything starts at the quarterback. But just because Justin Herbert's had a few good games doesn't mean that Drew Lock is a bust. I'm sick of hearing that. I read an article this week saying, put up or shut up for Drew Lock. And I'm like, what? What does that even mean? I mean, Drew Lock and this Broncos team are trying to learn and get to know each other. This is not about getting to the playoffs. This is about seeing what you have after you've committed to a quarterback in Drew Lock and given him the wide receiver resources that you deemed to be the best choice in the NFL draft.
Yeah, again, process over results. If the Broncos are winning games, but Drew Lock looks terrible, then I'm going to be the first person to call him out. But if the Broncos are losing close games and the team is falling apart around him due to injury, but Drew Lock is hanging in there and showing flashes, even if they're losing, I'm going to stand up for him. So you got to be able to – I don't think enough people can separate the box score from the actual play on the field.
Yes.
And that's something that's that's something that you really have to be able to dig into the tape to do. But again, we got a long season left. Hopefully, God, knock on wood. So we'll get to figure out what he's going to be.
Yeah, and don't forget Pat Shurmur. The Broncos have been changing coaches more than they change socks, okay? Like, it's one of those things where it's just like, what do you expect, all right? I mean, he's got a few games a couple games, 2.25, maybe even if you want to call it that. I mean, it's just ridiculous to call somebody a bust when they have not had the sample size. But, Nick, you said it. I'm willing to call Drew Lock out, and I'll say it right now. His footwork, I'm going to be watching it tomorrow, and I'm going to be critical of it when it's bad. If it's better, I'm going to feel a lot better about moving forward throughout the NFL season. But that being said, we have WE coming in with the super chat, $4.99. Thank you so much, WE. What's up? Did we draft Albert O to be Lock's cheerleader? We should have drafted a tackle or an edge rusher. WE, you just made Nick Kendall's night.
Honestly, no, not.
Come on, you're always
tackle.
You're always getting after my boy Alberto. You're always getting after my boy Alberto because I told you he's coming for Noah Fant within the next 2 years.
That one is put down the beer. I'm the one who's supposed to drink on the podcast. But it's the same thing even with the KJ Hamler pick, specifically for the offensive tackle position. Go back to the draft class and point to me to one tackle or edge rusher in that range that would be playing right now or making a difference. Those draft picks, especially day 3, are investments. And if you get one that can contribute day 1, that's a lottery ticket. You cannot depend on that. So while you're talking about edge rusher and tackle there, for a 4th round pick, you're talking about a guy that you hope can contribute end of 2021, 2022. But especially for a position like tackle and edge rusher, which are so valuable, the good ones go quick. The NFL is very good at typically getting the correct guys early. So while it would be nice to have another tackle or an edge rusher, if you're flopping a 2020 draft pick 4th rounder for Albert O, I don't think it's making a lick of difference for where the Broncos are right now. Other than you feel a little bit better about the future of the position.
I don't know, man. I mean, WE, I see your point. Nick, I see your point as well. You got to go for the best overall player, I think, in some scenarios, depending on where the round is and who's there. So I would also push back a little bit and say because of injuries and because of the 19 list and all these other things, cats are going to be pulled off the street this year. That's a theory floating out there right now, that because of injuries specifically, I mean, these practice squad players are getting in here, and what happens if, knock on wood, they get hurt? Then you got to start signing free agents. You got to get them in here, not only acclimated, but you got to get them tested. You got to go through all these new hoops. And here we are going into the cold season and stuff like that. I think it's going to be really tough. But the hard thing about it is, we haven't seen how this year's draft class has even panned out. So it's hard to completely, start grading immediately when we haven't seen enough. I just talked about sample size. We haven't seen a big enough sample size from KJ Hamler. Now, when I see KJ Hamler on the field, I'm liking what I'm seeing, Nick. I'm surprised and pleasantly surprised. I'm not saying he's the greatest thing ever right now, but I do like the potential of KJ Hamler.
Yeah, sorry if you're breaking up a little bit for me there, Luke. Hopefully it's not my internet. But we have Chase coming in here. Locke's best year in Mizzou was after having the same coordinator for a second season, I believe. It was also a more wide open offense where the reads were easier. His senior year, they had a more NFL oriented offense, and it's tougher. And granted, most games in the SEC, he's playing at a talent deficit. And I know Kevin Peterson's just giving me a hard time about AJ Epinesa. Epinesa's looking good out there. The Bills look like, besides that game against the Titans, they've been pretty good out there. We'll see. But again, I think the main thing about it's the instant gratification for a draft pick. We talk draft picks all the time. It's one of my favorite things about the NFL is the draft process going from college football to the NFL and getting those picks because there's just as much luck as skill involved in the whole thing because you're dealing with human beings and trying to evaluate what they're going to become. So it's a lottery. But the best teams do it better than other teams.
No. You're a draft guy. I'm a draft guy. That's my trigger word. I'm just going to say it. It is not a lottery. Do I agree that luck goes into it? You bet. But I would not call it a lottery / crapshoot. I know you didn't say crapshoot, but I got to push back a little there because are there going to be failures? You bet. Are there going to be successes? Not as many, as there are failures, but come on, man. They do the homework. You do the homework. We're right on some. We're wrong on others. And you're right. There is luck, but a crapshoot?
Not a crapshoot. No, every single pick, the odds of hitting become lower and lower. So you're talking about high odds. It's like a coin flip for the first pick. And then after that, it just precipitously goes down. So it's not a complete crapshoot, but it's just a statistical
it's hard to get it right.
Of hitting.
It's hard to get it right. We can agree
and it's
on
a human evaluation game. I mean, Paxton Lynch had all the tools, but dude didn't have between the ears or in the chest. So
look at Brett Rippon right now. He seems to make reads. He seems to be looking at things. He is pre-snap. I love it, but he doesn't have the mustard with the arm. So I mean, it's really tough to find those guys, and it's tough. And the grades. They're still out. So we're in the last little segment of the show here, and I want to make sure we're still getting to you guys. I see Charlie Beagle out here, and I want to get to this. We didn't see Bryce Callahan for a whole year, and that's right. But you know what, Charlie? I think you would agree with me, and Nick, I'm sure you will. The wait was definitely worth it. Right? I mean, we talked just a little bit about those DBs right now, but we were super worried about the DBs. We're still concerned, but I think we've all been pleasantly surprised by the defensive backfield for Denver.
Yeah, the one area where I'm a little bit concerned is I feel like Kareem Jackson stepped back a tiny bit, and I'm not sure about the long-term depth at safety. I don't think Trey Marshall is anything beyond just a dude out there. I don't think he has the versatility, but the cornerback position specifically, it was one that I was extremely concerned about coming into this season because it was just question mark after question mark after question mark. I mean, you really couldn't depend on any of the guys. And then once Boye went down after week 1, I mean, here we go. But Bryce Callahan's been out there. He's been playing pretty well. I see some people asking about where the turnovers are, but turnovers are actually pretty erratic. Obviously, you got guys like Ed Reed out there who are just, I mean, there's a reason in the Hall of Fame, but you can't really depend on turnovers. So I thought Callahan's actually been out there pretty good. Bosby flashed. It was an obvious difference once Asang Bassi came off the field and Bosby came in. I mean, the defense, especially the cornerbacks, was so much better because Bassi was really struggling, especially with crossers. And Michael Ojemudia has been the Broncos' best rookie so far. I don't think that's actually debatable. I don't think that's debatable.
No, hands down. He's my rookie of the year for the Broncos right now. He really is. I mean, I know he hasn't had that pick yet, right? But I'm not going to use lunch for that. And I think coach is a little hard on the rookie for it. I think people are a little hard on the rookie for it. You know what I care about? He was in position. He, it was a pass deflection, which I'm okay with. It's like being a defensive lineman. You want to sack, right? You want to tackle, but those batted balls, Shelby Harris has made a career on those batted balls. Did he get paid millions and millions of dollars like he thought he would? No. But guess what? He's still a Denver Bronco. He's happy to be back here, and he is having some success on that defensive line. So I like Michael Ojemudia a lot. I'm really curious to see how he does specifically on the perimeter. Cam Newton likes to run and do a lot of different things, and he's been a great tackler, Nick. He likes to wrap up. He's not afraid to hit. And Michael Ojemudia, man, I am super impressed with the rookie corner.
He looks like he belongs. So what does that mean for with Boye coming back? I don't know, but I can tell you one thing: Ojemudia should not be losing snaps.
Is Bouye playing in this game? Is that official?
I do not think it is official.
Yeah, I don't think he's. I think maybe he'll dress, right? But I don't know that he's going to be too. I don't think he's going to start.
Yeah, and it wouldn't make sense for him to start right now, I think, also. But again, Michael Ojemudia is looking pretty darn good, and good for him. And you talked about it earlier. It's something I'll come back to again. This is a team that, the players in the locker room, they're fighting for a playoff spot, but we can take a step back and be a little bit more analytical, a little less emotional. Granted, it's maybe not always, because there are fanatics out there. That's what it's great about Bronco country.
But we tell the truth. We can't.
Yeah, we
look
try
at
to.
Things. We can't. Well, and I'm a Broncos fan. You're a Broncos fan, and I'm proud of that. But I'm going to tell the truth when it's happening. I'm not just going to spit a company line because I love the Broncos. It's just you got to see what you have and be honest with it. And sometimes it sucks, and other times it doesn't. But you know what? They're the Broncos, and they're fixing to get a game in tomorrow, man. I'm getting pumped. Let's do it.
Yeah, and total side note here, but very much on our minds. George Vandermark has been dealing with some health issues, so we wanted to give him a shout out, aka Gio. If you guys know him, reach out to him, let him know that you're thinking about him. We're all thinking about him. Also, obviously people in the comments also reaching out, talking about him. So just keep George on your mind, guys, while we go forward. Obviously, we're getting out of here pretty soon, but there are things bigger than football. And George, man, we hope you turn things around and get on the up and up here.
Yeah, Gio, absolutely. Props up, brother. I hope you feel better soon. You're in our thoughts and prayers. And I just want to say how proud I am of the MHH community, just for reaching out to one of our own, Chad, who's had a tough week. And y'all can go look on Twitter. I don't want to explain any situations or anything like that, but he's had a tough week. And I'm really, really proud to be a part of a community that is so gracious and takes care of one another. And Nick, you're obviously included in that, and John as well. I'm so proud to have a show with you guys, but even prouder for our following. So as we start to wrap up the show, James Campbell, nice, Luke. Say Denver loses its next two. Which players would you give serious thoughts to trading away? Personally think anyone who isn't in future plans or players who would cost too much are on the list. I can tell you the Justin Simmons thing is not going to happen. It's an interesting article, but that's just not the way John Elway does business. And there's an MHH guy who covers the Dallas Cowboys, Zach Kelberman. Go ahead and reach out to him on that. Something tells me he would go ahead and squash that story as well. Everything I've heard, no way that's going to happen. But John, if we get that last super chat up as we start to wrap up the show, Jay, how many receivers, Jay Boss coming in here again. Jay Boss, what a gangster name, man. I love it. How many receivers went before Claypool? That kid might end up being the best wide receiver drafted. Judy and Hamler need to step it up. Jay Boss, I love that question because Chase Claypool, what was that? Not one, not two, not three. I sound like LeBron. 4 touchdowns, right? Total touchdowns last week for the Steelers. Nick, to answer the question overall, and as we wrap up the show, who do you think is going to be the rookie wide receiver of the year from this rookie-studded draft class that includes Jerry Jeudy, who Broncos fans, to be honest, wanted to see a little bit more?
That's a tough question because you and I both know that the wide receiver position depends on the guy getting them the football. So coming into this before last week, I would have said, given the situation, I would have CeeDee Lamb was the guy I'm leaning towards just because.
CeeDee Lamb is looking dirty, dude. He's looking absolutely dirty. Zach's got to be loving that. You're right. I mean, you're telling me you don't want 3 different quarterbacks if you're a wide receiver throwing you the ball in, 3 weeks?
Not great. But I think, you got to put those guys in the fermentation chamber and understand that they are investments rather than immediate gratifications. Let's say you planted a garden and we are, 2 weeks from it being planted, and are you already wanting to pick everything and get the crops and the produce from it? No, you want to let it grow. You want to let it get ripe and all good and juicy, and we're just not there yet.
All good and juicy.
Just wait. You just want to wait.
Those sound bites right there, because life is a garden. Dig it, to quote Joe Dirt, Nick Kendell out there. I agree, man. It's a developmental thing, right? I mean, these players, to have all your rookies come out and start hitting, not realistic, just like you said earlier, brother.
And Claypool, again, a guy that Ian Book at Notre Dame, not a good quarterback prospect. We saw Miles Boykin kind of do the same thing last year where he lit up the combine but never really showed out at the college level. So far, again, he's a 4th-round pick, 3rd-round pick. Hasn't done much for the Ravens yet. But Claypool looks like he's hitting, and it's opportunity plus fit plus, the right coaching staff, the right quarterback. So Claypool looks like a hit, but I wouldn't sweat too much about it. Just sometimes, guys hit. I mean, Tom Brady was a goddamn 6th-round pick. He hit. Sometimes that's just going to happen. Guys are going to fall through the cracks. Maybe they weren't in the right situation before. Maybe something mentally clicked for them. You never know. Every guy's their own individual story. That's what makes it so great. Back to James's question earlier, if the Broncos do lose the next 2, who are you looking to trade? Pretty much anybody that's over 30 years old that you don't see the Broncos looking to keep beyond 2021, probably at least put on the block. So maybe somebody like Kareem Jackson, maybe somebody like Bryce Collinson / AJ Boye, maybe somebody like Shelby Harris. So those names just come to mind immediately for me, especially on the defensive side of the ball, where, if you can get a 5th-round pick, 4th-round pick, 6th-round pick, shed some of that cap that you can roll over into next year and have another lottery ticket to play with, that's not the worst way to at least go. So at least to look at. I'm not saying trade for sure, but you have to take the calls.
John loves making calls, right? Some deals he pulls the triggers on, some he doesn't, but people call John as well. They know he likes to wheel and deal. And it's one of those things, man, where you never know what John Elway's going to do. John Elway doesn't know what John Elway's going to do, right? That's why he has his small inner circle of guys that he really relies on, like Matt Russell. So we're going to have to see how things ultimately play out. But when you start talking about trading Broncos, the sad thing about it is I don't know how many other teams have interest in some of these Broncos. I mean, offensively, who would want any of these offensive players, really? I mean, Philip Lindsay, he's not going to take a big draft pick. You're not just going to give him away for a 3rd rounder or anything like that. So it's tough to say.
I can see somebody like offering a 7th-round pick for Royce Freeman just to come in and eat some carries.
Sure. And I'd be okay with that. But, we'll have to see how it goes. Tom wrapping up the show for us with his official prediction. Tom El Greco with his $5 super chat. 24-20 Broncos. Drew's going to go 18 for 25 for 250 yards and 2 touchdowns. Man, I love it, Tom. I hope you're right, but I'm telling you right now, you're probably going to be wrong, brother. I got it 24-17 Patriots. Bill Belichick, you want to talk about defensive mastermind? He's the guy, not Vic Fangio.
For sure. I got the Patriots winning 27-23. I think it'll be a good game, but we will see. And any news on the Broncos, we have a Richie coming in. Any news on the Broncos running back coach? He was already away from the team. That's, as much as I know there. That's what I've heard as well. So Curtis Motkins, COVID. So we'll see what happens. But guys, due to the parameters of our show and uploading everything, we got to get on out of here so you guys can enjoy the rest of your Saturday night as well. Follow Luke on Twitter at Luke Patterson LP and myself at Nick Kendell MHH. Going over to Mile High Huddle, an affiliate of Sports Illustrated. Shout out to George again. Hopefully he can get healthy and on the up and up. Go to iTunes, leave us a 5-star rating and a comment. Like, subscribe, and share if you're following us on YouTube. Click those little thumbs up if you're on Facebook. All those things can really help us, not just this show, but the Dove Valley Deep Divers, Building the Broncos, Huddle Up Podcast, all of us on the same network, all of us on the same team, bringing you Denver Bronco deep dives each and every day. Not only, once a week, but each and every day. Follow us on Twitter at Mile High Huddle and at MHI_football pod. For Luke, I'm wrapping up this episode of the Mile High Insiders podcast. Luke, you got any plans for the rest of the night?
No, man, I'm trying to just make sure I get to tomorrow. It can't come fast enough. So I've had a blast with you guys so much, and go Broncos, right? Always believe in that Mile High magic. I'm hoping it does some good for them.
Yep, and for the love of God, everyone stay healthy. We appreciate it. Have a good night. You guys stay healthy as well, and God bless.
You've been listening to the Huddle Up Podcast. Join Broncos Country's deep divers at milehighhuddle.com to keep the conversation going.